Sometimes a movie tells you exactly what it's about within the first 5 minutes. A frightened woman runs through the woods. A dangerous-looking man hunts her. That's all Strange Darling gives us. And somehow, it feels like enough. That's because we've seen this story before. Or at least, we think we have. We've watched enough thrillers to recognize the pattern almost instantly. The isolated highway, the endless trees, the terrified woman, the relentless pursuer. Before either character explains who they are, our minds have already begun filling in the blanks. This movie never rushes to explain itself. And once you notice that, you can't stop thinking about it. Because the brilliance of Strange Darling isn't hidden inside some impossible to predict twist. It's hidden inside the ordinary moments that come before it. When people recommend this movie, they usually tell you to go in blind. I understand why. The less you know, the more powerful the experience becomes. On paper, there's nothing revolutionary about this story. Strip away the structure, and it's almost disarmingly simple. Two strangers meet. Violence follows. One of them is hunting the other. You could explain the entire premise in a single sentence. So why has this film become one of those rare thrillers that people immediately tell their friends to watch? Why does it linger long after the credits roll? I don't think it's because of the ending. I think it's because Strange Darling understands something that many thrillers have forgotten. Suspense doesn't come from hiding information. It comes from making us believe we already have enough. The funny thing about Strange Darling is that if someone described the plot to you over coffee, it probably wouldn't sound very interesting. It's a serial killer thriller. There are guns, chases, roadside motels, and enough blood to satisfy horror fans. We've seen all of that before. In fact, we've seen it so many times that the movie barely has to explain itself. It simply drops us into a situation we've been conditioned to understand. The film doesn't rely on making the story more complicated. It relies on making us comfortable. Comfortable enough to stop asking questions. One of the best scenes comes long before anything violent happens. It's just two people talking, flirting, testing each other's boundaries. On a first watch, it feels almost incidental. The kind of scene that's there to establish chemistry before the real story begins. Watching it again feels completely different. Every line suddenly carries two conversations at once. There's the one happening out loud, and the one neither character is willing to admit. That's what makes the writing so satisfying. The dialogue doesn't change after you know the truth. Your perspective does. Most thrillers become smaller once you know the ending. The mystery disappears. The tension fades. You notice a few clues, appreciate the craftsmanship, and move on. Strange Darling has the opposite effect. The second viewing feels richer than the first, since you finally understood who these people were pretending to be. Every smile, every hesitation, every moment where someone seems to be weighing their next words. None of it feels random anymore. And that's where I think Strange Darling separates itself from so many modern thrillers. The story isn't built around one shocking revelation. It's built around perspective. That's a much harder trick to pull off. A plot twist only needs to surprise you once. Characters that continue revealing themselves long after you know the ending. Those stay with you. Strange Darling tells a remarkably simple story. Two strangers meet for what they both assume will be a one-night stand. By the next morning, one of them is running for their life. From there, the film becomes a relentless chase across the Oregon countryside, moving from lonely highways to diners, farmhouses, forests, and motel rooms. The first time we meet the lady and the demon, they're almost playful. Their conversation is awkward, funny, even charming. They tease each other, set boundaries, laugh at how strange the whole situation is. For a few minutes, the movie almost forgets it's a thriller. That calm doesn't last. Violence erupts. People die. The chase begins. And with every new chapter, the story keeps shifting beneath our feet. Characters we thought we understood become harder to read. Moments that seemed straightforward suddenly carry a different meaning. Conversations we barely noticed become some of the most important scenes in the film. The film's biggest revelation is that the woman we've spent so much of the movie sympathizing with is, in fact, the infamous serial killer the police have been hunting. In another movie, that would be The Destination, the moment designed to leave the audience speechless before the credits roll. Here, it feels more like the halfway point, because once you know the truth, the movie quietly asks you to replay everything you've already seen. And it's almost like watching two different movies occupying the same scenes. That's why Strange Darling holds up so well on a second watch. You're no longer wondering what happens next. You're watching two people who know far more than you do, carefully trying to read each other while hiding pieces of themselves. And the suspense doesn't disappear once you know the ending. Willa Fitzgerald never plays the lady as one thing. She's funny, charming, frightening, vulnerable, confident, sometimes all within the same scene. Kyle Gallner does something equally difficult. His performance constantly walks a line between confidence and uncertainty. Neither character feels like they exist to serve the plot. They feel like people making decisions in real time. Even the setting contributes to that feeling. The Oregon countryside is beautiful. Open roads, quiet forests, warm afternoon sunlight. It doesn't look like the backdrop for a nightmare. That contrast makes every violent moment feel more unsettling. Nothing about the world warns you that something is wrong. That's why I think Strange Darling deserves more praise than I think it does. Really good thrillers leave you talking about the ending. The great ones leave you talking about the people. Strange Darling is in the latter category. Maybe that's why Strange Darling never became a huge cultural moment. It's not built around spectacle. It doesn't rely on endless action or increasingly elaborate set pieces. Its biggest strengths are much quieter. A confident script, two remarkable performances, a story that reveals more every time you revisit it, the incredible cinematography. This was Giovanni Ribisi's first feature as a cinematographer. Yes, this guy.
So, what kind of things do you like to do at home?
Melt stuff.
And it's hard to believe you're looking at someone's debut behind the camera, and just enough restraint to let the audience do some of the work. In an era where so many thrillers rush to explain themselves, Strange Darling is comfortable letting a moment breathe, comfortable with silence, comfortable trusting that we're paying attention. Maybe that's why people who discover it become so eager to recommend it, because they want someone else to experience the same slow realization they did, that they've just watched one of the smartest thrillers in years, one that quietly slipped past almost everyone.